My name is Jenna Carter. I'm 32 years old, and the strange thing about the moment your future dies is that it does not arrive with thunder. It does not kick the door open. It does not warn you that the life you have been building with your bare hands is about to reveal itself as fiction. Sometimes, it happens while you are folding baby clothes. I was 9 months pregnant when my boyfriend finally told me he would not be there for the birth of our daughter because he was married. Not divorced, not separated, married, with 3 children, and a wife who had just found out I existed. I was standing in the nursery when he called. The room was finally finished after weeks of work. Soft yellow walls, because we wanted the baby's gender to stay a surprise until the delivery room. A white crib under the window. A half-zipped hospital bag on the chair. Tiny onesies stacked in trembling little piles across the changing table. I remember all of that with sickening clarity. The quiet hum of the air conditioner. The late afternoon light slipping through the curtains. The ridiculous happiness I felt when I saw his name flash across my phone. I answered on the second ring, with a smile already in my voice, ready to tease him for taking so long to pick up the car seat like he promised. Instead, he said, "I can't be at the birth." For 1 second, I honestly thought he was joking. I laughed. Actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because my brain rejected the sentence the way the body rejects poison. "What are you talking about?" I asked. "Marcus, stop. The hospital bag is packed. You helped me pack it." Then there was silence. Not normal silence. Not bad reception silence. The kind of silence that changes the temperature in a room. The kind that makes your stomach tighten before your mind understands why. And then he said, very quietly, "My wife found out about you. About the baby. I can't do this anymore." The onesie in my hand slipped to the floor. Wife. That word did not make sense at first. It bounced around inside my skull like something in the wrong language, like I had misheard him. Like there was still time for reality to correct itself. "You're what?" "I have a wife," he said. "Her name is Denise. We've been married 12 years. We have 3 kids. She found the ultrasound photo in my jacket. Jenna, she's devastated. I have to fix this. I have to try to save my family." I sat down because my legs stopped feeling like mine. Not gracefully. Not slowly. I just folded in on myself at the edge of the bed, like someone had cut a wire inside me. One hand went to my stomach automatically, pressing against the hard curve of our daughter. The daughter I had spent 9 months growing with a man who was suddenly a stranger. "You're lying," I whispered. It came out too soft, too thin, like even my voice was in shock. "This is some kind of sick joke." I wish it was. His voice cracked then, and I hated him for that. I hated that he sounded wounded. I hated that he got to sound human while blowing my life apart. "I'm sorry, Jenna. I never meant for it to go this far. I never meant to fall for you." I started shaking so hard I could hear my own teeth click. "We've been together for 2 years, I said. 2 years, Marcus. You've slept in my bed. You came to every appointment. You held my hand while we listened to her heartbeat. You picked out baby names with me. You told me you wanted to marry me." "I know." "No, don't say you know. Don't do that." My voice rose, then splintered. "You do not get to say you know." He was crying now, or trying to sound like he was. I could not tell anymore. "I meant it in the moment," he said. "I did. I wasn't trying to hurt you." That was the sentence that made something in me go cold. Not hot, cold. Because there is something especially monstrous about a person who says he did not mean to destroy you, while choosing the exact words that do it. "In the moment," I repeated. "What does that even mean?" "It means I was selfish. I thought I could keep everything separate. I thought maybe eventually I could leave Denise. Maybe I could figure something out." I stared at the crib across the room. The mobile above it moved slightly in the air. Little paper stars turning in a circle. It looked like a nursery from somebody else's life. "Before you could what?" I asked. "Before you could stop lying? Before you could decide which family was real? He did not answer. He did not need to, because we both knew. He had already decided. He was going home to his wife, to his children, to the life with history and holidays and photographs and legal paperwork and neighbors who knew his name. And I was the woman left sitting in a yellow nursery, 9 months pregnant, with a baby whose father had just erased her before she was even born. How? I asked eventually, though I barely recognized my own voice. How did I not know? And that was when he started explaining. Every answer felt like glass under the skin. The business trips were family vacations. The late nights at the office were dinners at home. The weekends he said he had client obligations were weekends with his children. The reason he never spent Christmas morning with me. The reason he could not stay over Friday nights. The reason he always kept one phone on silent and another one I never saw. The reason there were so many gaps in him that I spent 2 years mistaking for mystery instead of deceit. I thought you worked all the time, I said. I know. I thought you were building something for us. I wanted to. I almost laughed again. Not because anything was funny, because sometimes pain is so sharp your body reaches for absurdity just to survive it. You cried at the ultrasound, I said. Do you remember that? You cried when they told us she was a girl. I did. That was real. That word. Real. He kept using it, as if reality were something he could distribute in pieces, as if real feelings excused fake circumstances, as if loving me in fragments somehow softened the lie he wrapped around every part of my life. If it was real, I said, why wasn't I worth the truth? He inhaled shakily. I was going to tell you. When? He said nothing. Before the baby was born? I pressed. After? When she started kindergarten? On our wedding day that was never happening? Jenna? No. I stood too fast, dizziness washing over me. One hand braced against the dresser. No, you don't get my name right now. You don't get to say my name like you know me. The room blurred. I could hear my own breathing. Hear the blood pounding in my ears. There are moments in life where you feel your old self leave. That was one of mine. I hung up on him without another word. Then I made it to the bathroom and threw up so hard I thought it would tear something loose inside me. After that, I sat on the floor for hours. 3, maybe more. My back against the tub, my swollen feet cold against the tile. Both hands around my belly, as if I could protect my daughter from a truth that had already reached her through me. I remember whispering, I'm sorry, over and over. Sorry for choosing him. Sorry for trusting him. Sorry for building her first home inside a body full of lies. That night, I went through everything. Every photo, every text, every tiny memory I had once called proof of love. I examined them like evidence after a crime. And the worst part was not that there were no signs. The worst part was that there were signs everywhere. He never added me on social media. Said he did not believe in it. Said it was toxic. Said he preferred real life. I thought that made him mature. Now I understood he was not avoiding social media. He was avoiding exposure. He always paid in cash. Always. Restaurants, gas, gifts, groceries. I used to think it was old-fashioned, maybe even charming. He said he did not trust banks, did not like being tracked. I believed him. But credit card statements leave trails. Cash does not. Cash disappears. Cash keeps secrets. And then there was the apartment. The apartment where we spent most of our time together. Minimalist, he called it. Clean lines, neutral furniture, no clutter, no photos, no framed memories, no signs that an actual human being lived a life there. At the time, I told myself he just liked simplicity. Now I could see it for what it was. A set. A stage. A carefully managed little performance space where he could pretend to be my devoted boyfriend while his real life happened somewhere else. I had spent 2 years in someone else's lie and decorated it with my trust. Sometime after midnight, I thought about Denise, a woman I had never met, a woman whose existence had been hidden from me so completely that even now she felt like a ghost standing at the edge of my life. I pictured her finding the ultrasound photo, maybe in the laundry room, maybe while emptying his jacket pockets, maybe while doing some ordinary thing on some ordinary day before the floor opened beneath her, too. Did she think I knew? Did she imagine me as some scheming woman waiting in the shadows for her husband? Did she hate me already? I almost wanted her to, because hatred would be easier than the truth. The truth was uglier. Two women, both fooled by the same man. Two women loving different versions of him. Two women standing in different rooms at different times, realizing neither version was real. But even in the middle of all that pain, one thought kept crawling back. I was not completely innocent. That was the part I could not outrun. Yes, he lied. Yes, he manipulated me. Yes, he built an entire false life and invited me into it. But there had been moments, so many moments where my instincts rose up and asked questions, and I pressed them back down because the answers might ruin what I wanted to believe. The first time I asked to meet his family, 3 months in, he smiled and said they were complicated, said they lived far away, said it was too soon. I let it go. 6 months later, I asked again. He told me his mother was ill and things were tense, and he did not want to drag me into family stress. I let it go. A year in, I stopped asking altogether. That should have been my answer. But instead, I told myself I was modern, independent, above all the traditional markers people use to measure serious relationships. I said I did not need holidays and introductions and family dinners to know I was loved. But normal men do not keep the women they love sealed off from the rest of their lives. Normal men do not build intimacy in secret compartments. Normal men do not make you feel cherished in private and absent in public. I knew something was wrong. Not clearly, not enough to name it, but enough. Enough that my stomach tightened sometimes when he left. Enough that certain explanations sounded rehearsed. Enough that I learned to stop asking certain questions because I did not like how small his answers made me feel. I should have listened to that voice. Instead, I chose comfort over truth. And now truth had arrived anyway. Bigger and crueler, and 11 days before my due date. Outside, the world kept moving. Cars passed. Neighbors slept. Somewhere, I imagined Marcus walking back into his other life, into a house full of consequences that still somehow included him. And I sat in the nursery we built for a future that had just been dismantled by a single sentence. The strangest part? Even then, even shattered, part of me still expected him to call back, to say he panicked, to say he was wrong, to say none of this was real. But deep down, in the place where instinct lives before language catches up, I knew. This was real. This was the first page of a story I would spend years trying to survive. And I had no idea yet that the worst part was still coming. My water broke at 3:02 a.m. on a Tuesday. There's a sound it makes. Quiet, almost polite, not dramatic, not the way movies show it, just a soft shift, a warmth that shouldn't be there, and a realization that something irreversible has started. I was alone. Of course I was. For a moment, I just stood there in the middle of my bedroom, one hand gripping the edge of the dresser, the other instinctively cradling my stomach, as if I could somehow hold everything together just a little longer. This isn't how it was supposed to happen, I whispered. But nothing about my life was following the script anymore. I moved slowly, mechanically, grabbed my hospital bag, the same one Marcus had helped me pack just days before, his folded t-shirts still inside, his presence stitched into every corner of something that now felt like evidence. I almost left it behind. Almost. But I needed something to hold on to, even if it was a lie. The drive to the hospital felt unreal. The streets were empty. Traffic lights changed for no one. The city moved in that eerie, suspended way it does before dawn, like the world itself hadn't fully woken up yet. I remember thinking, this is the last moment of my life before everything changes. Not in the way I had imagined. Not with excitement. Not with someone holding my hand across the center console, telling me to breathe. Just me. Driving myself to give birth to a child whose father had already chosen not to show up. The nurses were kind. Too kind. The kind that comes from seeing this before. "Where's your support person?" one of them asked as she guided me into a wheelchair. "He's on his way," I said automatically. The lie slipped out so easily, it scared me. Because part of me still needed it to be true. Hours passed, then more hours. Labor is not a clean thing. It's not poetic. It's not symbolic. It is pain.
Raw. Animal. Consuming.
And beneath the physical pain, something worse was unraveling inside me. Every contraction felt like a question. Where is he? Every wave of pain carried a memory. His hand on mine during appointments. His voice saying, "We're in this together." His laughter when we argued over baby names. Every push felt like betrayal layered on top of betrayal. The nurses stopped asking about him after a while. They stopped looking at the door. They stopped pretending someone was coming. And I stopped lying. 26 hours. That's how long it took. 26 hours of pain that tore through my body and stripped away whatever illusions I had left about strength, about control, about fairness. At some point, I remember screaming his name, not because I wanted him there, but because my body remembered him, even if my mind didn't want to anymore. And then, at 5:47 a.m. on Wednesday, she arrived. 7 pounds, 4 ounces. Perfect. Crying. Alive. My daughter. For a moment, everything else disappeared. The room, the pain, Marcus, the lies. It all fell away the second they placed her on my chest. She was warm and impossibly small, her fingers curling instinctively against my skin, like she already knew me. And in that moment, something inside me shifted, not healed, not fixed, but rearranged. "I've got you," I whispered to her, my voice shaking. "I've got you. I promise." I meant it. God, I meant it. Even as part of me knew I was making promises I didn't fully understand yet. He didn't call. He didn't text. He didn't show up. 3 days later, I got a message. "Congratulations. I hope she's healthy. I'm sorry I couldn't be there." That was it. No name. No question. No. "How are you?" No. "What does she look like?" Just a clean, detached sentence. Like he was acknowledging a distant acquaintance's milestone instead of the birth of his own child. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I deleted it, because there was nothing I could say that wouldn't make me feel smaller. A month later, there was a knock on my door. I knew who it was before I opened it. I don't know how. Maybe instinct. Maybe dread has a shape you learn to recognize. She stood there with red-rimmed eyes and hands that wouldn't stop trembling. Denise, his wife, the woman whose life had collided with mine without either of us choosing it. For a second, we just stared at each other. Two strangers, connected by the same man, broken by the same truth. "I'm not here to cause a scene," she said. Her voice was quieter than I expected. That somehow made it worse. I stepped aside. "Come in," because what else was there to do? She saw the baby first, lying in the bassinet by the couch, sleeping, peaceful in a way that felt almost cruel compared to everything around her. Denise stepped closer, and I watched her face change. Not anger, not rage, something softer, something that cracked open under the weight of reality. "She looks like him," she whispered. I swallowed hard. "She has his chin." Of course she did. Of course, even this child couldn't escape him completely. "I didn't know," I said quickly. "I swear to God, I didn't know he was married. He never told me. He never wore a ring. He said he was single. He said—" "I believe you." She cut me off before I could finish. Her voice was flat, tired. Like belief wasn't comfort. It was just another burden she had to carry. "I've seen the messages," she continued. "The ones where you asked to meet his family. The ones where you asked why he couldn't spend holidays with you." Her eyes met mine then. "You didn't know." There was no kindness in it, no forgiveness, just acknowledgement. You were just as stupid as I was. The word hit harder than anything else she could have said. Because it wasn't entirely wrong. Because I had asked questions. Because I had ignored the answers. We stood there in silence for a moment. Two women who had built different lives around the same lie. "Are you leaving him?" I asked finally. I don't know why I asked. Maybe some part of me wanted confirmation that he would lose everything, that there would be consequences. Denise laughed.
A hollow, brittle sound.
No. The word landed like a stone. We're going to counseling. We're going to try to fix this. For the kids. Of course, for the kids he already had, not the one sleeping 3 feet away. What about her? I asked, my voice tightening. She's his daughter. He can't just... Watch him, Denise interrupted softly. There was something terrifying in her calm. He's very good at pretending. Her gaze moved back to the baby. To you, he pretended I didn't exist, she said. For 2 years. Then she looked at me again. Now he's going to pretend you don't. The truth of that settled into the room like dust. Heavy.
Unavoidable.
That's what he does, she added. He pretends until the lie collapses, and then he runs. She didn't stay long after that. There was nothing left to say. No resolution, no closure. Just 2 people standing on opposite sides of the same wreckage. When she left, she didn't slam the door. She closed it gently, like even anger had run out of energy. 6 weeks later, I received a letter, not from him, from his lawyer.
Cold. Formal. Precise.
He was willing to provide financial support, a monthly amount listed in clean, clinical numbers. Generous by any standard. But in exchange, he wanted nothing else. No custody, no visitation, no involvement. A clean break. Like my daughter was a contract, like she was a mistake to be settled, instead of a life he helped create. My lawyer told me I could fight it. Demand paternity testing. Force him into court. Make him acknowledge her legally. Make him show up. But I kept thinking about what that would actually mean. A man who didn't want her. A man who would resent every visit, every birthday, every obligation. Love cannot be forced. Presence can, but presence without love? That's just another kind of absence. So I signed. I hate that I did. I hate that I took the money. But diapers cost money. Formula costs money. Rent costs money. And pride does not feed a child. Every month after that, the deposit appeared. No name. No message. Just numbers. Guilt converted into currency. The first few months were suffocating, not because of the baby, because of the silence. I had imagined this differently. Midnight feedings with someone beside me, arguments over who was more tired, laughter over nothing, a family. Instead, it was just me. Every feeding, every diaper, every sleepless night,
Alone.
My mom came for 2 weeks. She didn't say, "I told you so." Even though she could have, even though she had questioned him from the beginning, why I never met his family, why he was always unavailable during holidays, why something about him never quite added up. I had dismissed her concerns, called her paranoid, said she didn't understand modern relationships. Now she just held my daughter and looked at me with something worse than anger.
Disappointment. Deep. Quiet. Unavoidable.
My friends tried. At first, they brought food, offered to babysit, said all the right things. You're so strong. You'll get through this. We're here for you. But something had changed. I could feel it before I understood it.
A distance.
A hesitation. A carefulness in the way they spoke to me, like I had become something fragile, or worse.
Contagious.
It took me months to realize what it really was. Fear. If it could happen to me, someone careful, someone rational, someone who asked questions, then it could happen to them. Their boyfriends could be lying. Their husbands could have secrets. Their lives might not be as stable as they believed. And it was easier to step away from me than to sit with that possibility so slowly, quietly. They disappeared. No arguments, no dramatic endings, just fewer texts, fewer calls, fewer visits, until one day I realized I was alone.
Completely.
By the time my daughter was 6 months old, it was just us, and the silence had become part of the air I breathed. By the time my daughter was 6 months old, silence wasn't something I noticed anymore. It was something I lived inside. It sat in the corners of my apartment, settled into the spaces between her naps and my thoughts, filled the air in a way that made even small sounds feel too loud. The click of a bottle lid, the hum of the refrigerator, her soft breathing through the baby monitor at night. Everything echoed. Everything reminded me that there was no one else there to hear it. I started looking for him again, not in real life, not in ways that required courage, but in the quiet, obsessive way people revisit pain when they don't know how to let it go. Late at night, when she finally slept, I would sit on the couch with my phone and type his name into search bars I pretended I wasn't checking.
Marcus Hale. Denise Hale.
I told myself I just wanted information.
Closure.
Something that would make all of it feel finished. But what I was really doing was reopening the wound over and over again, just to prove to myself it still hurt. His wife's Facebook was private. Of course it was. But her Instagram wasn't. And that was enough. 2 years of photos. 2 years of a life that existed parallel to mine. No, not parallel. Above mine. More real. More legitimate. More chosen. Family vacations in places he told me were work trips. Christmas mornings with matching pajamas I had never seen. Birthday parties for 3 children I didn't know existed while I was planning a future with their father. And there he was, in all of them. Smiling.
Relaxed. Present.
The man I thought I knew. But not for me. Never for me. There was one photo I couldn't stop looking at. A family portrait, all 5 of them standing together, close, almost touching in that casual, effortless way people do when they belong to each other. The caption read, "Second chances, fighting for what matters most." The comments were full of hearts,
Support. Admiration.
people praising them for staying strong, for choosing family, for working things out. No one asked about me. No one asked about my daughter. It was like we didn't exist, like we had been edited out of the story entirely, like we were a mistake that didn't deserve to be acknowledged. I stared at that photo until my vision blurred. Then I threw my phone across the room. It hit the wall with a dull crack and slid to the floor. My daughter woke up crying. Of course she did. I picked her up immediately, holding her against my chest as guilt flooded through me. "I'm sorry," I whispered into her hair. "I'm so sorry." She didn't understand. She just needed comfort. And I was supposed to be enough. I kept telling myself that. But the truth? I didn't believe it. The panic attacks started around month 8. They didn't announce themselves. They didn't build slowly. They just arrived. One minute I would be fine, feeding her, folding laundry, going through the motions of a life I was still trying to adjust to. And the next, I couldn't breathe. My chest would tighten so suddenly, it felt like something inside me had snapped. My heart would race. My vision would narrow. And I would be convinced, absolutely convinced, that I was dying. Right there, on the floor, while my baby sat in her bouncer, kicking her legs, completely unaware that her mother was unraveling. I went to therapy because I had to, because there was no one else left to talk to. The therapist told me I was grieving, not just the relationship, but the life I thought I was building, the version of myself I believed in. "You were manipulated," she said gently. "You need to stop blaming yourself." I nodded. I understood the words, but understanding and believing are not the same thing. Because victims don't ignore red flags. That's what I kept thinking. Victims don't ask questions and then accept half answers. Victims don't feel something is wrong and choose to stay anyway. I had chances, so many chances, to push harder, to demand more, to walk away. But I didn't. I stayed because it felt good to be loved, or at least to believe I was. And now I was paying for that belief. Every single day. Her first birthday broke me. I tried to make it special. I really did. There was a small cake with a single candle. A handful of presents she didn't understand yet. My mom flew in again. A few neighbors I barely knew came by, smiling politely, offering congratulations that felt too bright for the reality of the day. I smiled back. I thanked them. I played the part until I couldn't anymore. At some point, I excused myself and locked myself in the bathroom. I sat on the edge of the tub and cried as quietly as I could so no one would hear. Because this wasn't how it was supposed to be. There was supposed to be another set of hands helping her tear open wrapping paper, another voice singing happy birthday, another person who looked at her and saw everything she was becoming. He didn't call. He didn't text. He didn't send a card. His daughter turned 1 year old, and he couldn't even acknowledge her existence. But the money came, right on time, every month, like clockwork, reliable in a way he never was. Sometimes I thought about sending it back, about rejecting it, about proving, to him, to myself, that I didn't need anything from him. But I did, and that truth sat heavy in my chest every time I saw the deposit. Because survival doesn't care about pride. I had to move. I couldn't afford the apartment anymore. Not alone. Not on one income. Packing up the nursery nearly destroyed me. The yellow walls. The crib. The tiny clothes I had folded with so much hope before everything fell apart. It felt like dismantling a version of my life that had never actually existed. I found a smaller place. Worse neighborhood. Less light. More noise. But it was what I could afford. So I started over. Again. There were moments I'm not proud of. Moments I don't like admitting, even to myself. Sometimes, when I looked at her, I saw him. Not just in small ways. In obvious, undeniable ones. The shape of her chin. The way her eyebrows moved. Certain expressions that felt too familiar. And in those moments, something ugly would rise inside me. Not at her. Never at her. But at what she represented. A reminder. A living, breathing reminder of the worst mistake I had ever made. And for a split second, I resented it. I resented him. I resented the life I was stuck in because of choices I couldn't undo. Then she would smile, or reach for me, or laugh in that soft, unfiltered way babies do, and the resentment would collapse under the weight of guilt so sharp it made my stomach twist. She didn't choose any of this. She didn't choose her father. She didn't choose me. She was just here, and she deserved better than a mother who saw her as anything less than everything. So I worked on it, in therapy, in quiet moments, in the way I forced myself to separate her from him, to see her as her own person, not a consequence, not a reminder, but a beginning. It took time, more time than I like to admit, but eventually, I got there, mostly. Dating felt impossible. Who would want this? A woman with a baby.
A complicated past.
Trust issues so deep, they felt permanent. I tried once, downloaded an app, created a profile, matched with someone who seemed normal. We went out to dinner. He was kind,
Polite.
easy to talk to, the kind of man I probably would have liked before everything. But I spent the entire night analyzing him. Every word, every pause, every glance at his phone. Was he hiding something? Was there someone else? Was I being lied to again and just not seeing it yet? I went home, sat on my bed, and deleted the app. I wasn't ready. Maybe I never would be. By the time she turned 3, she started asking questions. Small ones at first.
Casual.
The kind children ask without realizing they are touching something fragile. Where's my daddy? The first time she asked, I panicked. My mind went blank. I gave her something vague. Some kids have daddies at home, and some don't, I said. But you have so many people who love you. She accepted it, just like that, because children accept what they're given, at least for a while. But I could feel it coming. The day when simple answers wouldn't be enough. The day when she would look at other families and notice the difference. The day when she would ask not just where he was, but why. And I didn't have an answer that wouldn't break something inside her, or inside me. For now, I held her closer when she asked. For now, I filled the space with love as best as I could. For now, I told myself it would be enough, even though somewhere deep down, I knew it wouldn't be. Because absence is not just something you feel, it's something you grow into. And one day, she would understand exactly what was missing, and exactly who chose to leave. Lily is 3 years old now. She sleeps in a toddler bed pushed up against the wall. Surrounded by stuffed animals, she insists all have names and personalities and very specific sleeping positions. There's a small nightlight shaped like a moon that casts this soft glow across her face while she sleeps. And sometimes I sit there longer than I need to, just watching her breathe.
Peaceful.
Safe.
Unaware.
It's the only time I don't feel like I'm failing her. The questions come more often now. Not constant, not overwhelming, but steady. Curious. The way children test the edges of their world to see what holds and what doesn't. Mommy, where's my daddy? She asked me that last week while we were at the park. There was a father nearby pushing his daughter on a swing, laughing as she kicked her legs into the air, squealing like the world was exactly the way it should be. Lily watched them. Then she looked at me and asked the question like it was simple, like it should have a simple answer. My chest tightened so fast, it almost took my breath with it. He doesn't live with us, I said carefully. That was the truth. Just not all of it. Why? She tilted her head the way she does when she's trying to understand something that doesn't make sense yet. Because it doesn't. Not to her, not to someone who hasn't learned that adults can choose to leave. That's a grown-up situation, I said softly. It's complicated. She frowned. Not upset, just unsatisfied. And that's the part that terrifies me. Because one day, she won't let it go. One day, she will ask again and again until complicated is no longer enough. I think about that future more than I should, more than is healthy. The moment when she sits across from me, older, sharper, able to read between the lines, and asks the question I've been avoiding since before she was even born. Why didn't he stay? There is no version of the truth that doesn't leave a scar. Do I tell her he didn't want her? That he knew she was coming and chose a different life anyway? Do I soften it? Change the language? Say something like, he made mistakes, or he wasn't ready. But those are lies too. Gentler lies. More acceptable lies. But still lies. And I made her a promise the day she was born that I would never lie to her. I just didn't realize how impossible that promise would become. Sometimes, late at night, when she's asleep and the apartment is finally quiet, I think about him. Not the version of him I loved, not the version he pretended to be, the real one. The man who made a decision, because that's what it was, not a mistake, not confusion, not panic, a decision. He chose his wife. He chose his other children. He chose the life that had roots and history and a place in the world. And he chose to erase us. I used to think that meant we weren't real, that what we had didn't matter. But that's not true. It was real, at least for me. That's the part people don't talk about enough. You can be in something real with someone who is not. You can build something meaningful with a person who is lying the entire time. And when it ends, you don't just lose them. You lose your sense of judgment, your trust in yourself, your ability to believe your own memories. Because if that wasn't what you thought it was, then what else in your life is wrong? I don't hate Denise anymore. I thought I would. For a long time, I needed someone to be the villain, someone other than me. But she wasn't the enemy. She was just another person trying to survive the same disaster from a different side. I left, but neither of us won. That's the truth no one wants to admit. There's a part of me that still wonders what would have happened if I had fought, if I had dragged him into court, forced him to acknowledge Lily publicly, made him show up. But then I imagine it. A man sitting across from her at a birthday party, checking his watch. A forced smile. Obligation instead of love. And I know that kind of presence might have hurt her more than his absence ever could. At least this way, she doesn't have to watch him choose something else over her again and again. At least this way, the story ends clean. Even if it started as a mess. People still give me that look sometimes. At the park, At daycare. At the grocery store. That quiet, almost apologetic glance when they realize it's just me. No husband, no father hovering nearby. Just a woman and her child. I used to hate it. Now I barely notice. It's background noise, like everything else. I don't write this because I want sympathy. I don't. I've had enough of that. The soft voices, the careful words, the way people tilt their heads like I'm something fragile. I write this because somewhere out there, there's a woman standing exactly where I used to stand. She's with a man who doesn't quite add up. A man who doesn't have social media, who always pays in cash, who can't spend holidays with her, who keeps her separate from every other part of his life. And she's explaining it away, telling herself it's fine, that he's just different, that her gut is overreacting, that love will figure it out. It won't. That voice inside you? The one that whispers when something feels off. Listen to it, because I didn't. And now I'm raising a child inside the consequences of that silence. Lily stirs in her sleep. I watch her roll onto her side, clutching one of her stuffed animals tighter. Her small face relaxed in a way that makes my chest ache. When she wakes up, she'll call for me, and I'll go to her, like I always do. We'll have breakfast. She'll tell me something random about a dream she probably won't remember by lunchtime. We'll watch the same cartoon she's been obsessed with for weeks. We'll build something out of blocks and knock it down and laugh. That's my life now. Small moments, quiet routines, a kind of love that doesn't fix everything, but keeps everything from falling apart completely. Some days, it feels like enough. Other days, it feels like a sentence I'll spend the rest of my life serving. Not because I deserve it, but because consequences don't care about fairness. They ripple, they spread, they land on people who had nothing to do with the choices that created them. Like her. I'm not the villain of this story. I know that now. I was lied to.
Manipulated.
Used. But I'm not innocent either. I ignored what I didn't want to see. I accepted less than I deserved because I was afraid to be alone. And now, I'm raising a little girl who will one day have to make sense of that. If I could go back, I don't know what I would change. Leave earlier? Ask harder questions? Demand proof? Maybe. But real life doesn't work like that. You don't investigate the people you love like suspects. You trust them. Until you can't. What I do know is this. The lie always feels better than the truth, until it doesn't. And by the time it stops feeling good, you've already built something on top of it. Something that breathes. Something that depends on you. Something that will fall with you when everything collapses. That's the part no one warns you about. You don't fall alone. Lily wakes up and calls my name. Soft. Sleepy.
Trusting.
I stand up immediately, because no matter what I got wrong, I will not get that part wrong. I walk into her room, lift her into my arms, and hold her close. And for a moment, just a moment, it feels like maybe love can still be enough.